Hi and welcome to the Knits That Fit YouTube channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jacqueline and I am the creator of the Knits That Fit apps and knitting patterns. The Knits That Fit apps create custom knitting patterns that are calculated using the specific measurements and other information that you enter in the pattern settings in the app. The apps do the maths for you. KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium is incredibly flexible and enables you to create sweater patterns for any gauge of yarn, for babies, for children, as well as for adults, with many style options and, of course, customizable measurements. KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium is available to purchase as an upgrade within the free KnitsThatFit Sweaters app, available on the App Store and on Google Play. If you are using an Apple device, you also have the option to purchase KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium as a separate app rather than as an in-app purchase. In this video, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium and show you how quickly and easily you can create a sweater pattern in it. I'm going to be showing you this on an iPhone, but if you are using an Android device, the process is exactly the same. So let's get started. If you haven't done so already, you will need to either upgrade to Premium in the KnitsThatFit Sweaters app or purchase the KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium app from the App Store. When you open the app, you will see two main options: Create New Pattern or To My Pattern List. There is also another button in the bar at the top of the screen for help FAQs for useful information on how to use the app. Tap the Create New Pattern button. If this is your first time using the app, pop-up messages like this one will appear to guide you through the process of creating your first pattern. Tap OK to clear each message once you have read it. At the top of the screen, there is a Settings Guide button. Tapping this will show you a detailed guide to each of the settings parameters. You can come back to this guide at any time. Before you start, check that the measurement unit and needle size system preferences in the first section match those that you will be using. These are default settings that are used for all of the patterns that you create in the app. The default preferences are for measurements in inches and US needle size system. To change either or both, just tap on one of the values to bring up the Units Preferences screen. Simply select the measurement units and needle size system that you regularly use. Tapping the back button at the top of the screen will take you back to the settings screen without saving any changes. To save your changes and return to the settings screen, just tap the Save Preferences button at the bottom. Now you can go ahead and create a pattern. I strongly recommend that you always enter the settings starting at the top and working your way down. The first pop-up message told us that step 2 is to give your pattern a name. This can be anything you like. I'm going to call my pattern Jackie's Simple Round Neck Sweater. Tap Done to enter the text. Step 3 is to choose a knitting method. Flat bottom up means that you will knit the garment in sections, the back, the front and 2 sleeves, each from the bottom up. You can then sew the pieces together and work the neck finishing. Round top down means that the entire garment is worked in one piece from the neck down. If you are knitting a pullover, the garment is worked in the round after the neck shaping has been completed. Otherwise, the garment is worked in one piece, back and forth in rows. Choose an option. For this tutorial, I would choose flat bottom up. I'll be showing the round top down option in more detail in another tutorial. The next section is Style Options. Step 4 is to choose the type of person that you are knitting the garment for. Tap and choose from the options shown: women, men, girls, boys, babies and toddlers. Each option will enable different size ranges to be chosen later. I'm going to select women. Now we choose a garment style. Pullover, cardigan or zipped cardigan. I'll choose pullover here. There is a range of garment fit to choose from. Very close fitting and close fitting options have waist shaping. These options are only available for women's styles. I'll go with standard fitting for now. Choosing the fit has automatically entered a value for garment ease in the next row. Garment ease is the difference between the garment measurement and the body measurement. Changing the garment fit will change the default amount of ease. For example, if you were to choose the very close fitting option, you will see that there is 0 ease. However, you can customize this ease no matter which fit option you choose. Just tap on the value and choose the amount of ease that you want. Ease is shown in the measurement units that you chose in the beginning. For example, I'll give my garment slightly less ease, 1 inch instead of 2. Next, we can choose a neckline. You can see the range of necklines currently available at the time of making this video. There may be more options available by the time you're viewing it. I'm going to select round medium neckline. The following 2 rows, sleeve type and sleeve armhole style, have been automatically completed with default values, but you can change them as you please. I'm going to stick with the long sleeve option, but as you can see, you could also choose 3/4 length, short, cap sleeve, or sleeveless. The default armhole style is set in, but as you can see, you can choose raglan or drop shoulder. If you have chosen oversized fit, the set-in sleeve is not available and the default is drop shoulder. However, for the standard fit, you have the 3 options, and I'm keeping the default set-in sleeve for this pattern. We now go on to the yarn details section. Tap in the box and type a description to identify the yarn that will be used. This will be used in the pattern text. I'm going to call mine Self-Patterning Pink DK. It can be anything you like to help you remember which yarn you have used for the pattern. Tap Done to enter the text. Now we choose a needle size. This is the needle size that you will use for the main stitch of the sweater and must be the needle size to achieve the specified gauge. Knit a swatch to check which needle size you need to knit your yarn to the appropriate gauge. You can change this later if you need to. I'm going for a 4mm needle. There are several main stitch patterns to choose from. If you want to knit a stitch pattern that isn't shown here, just choose Other. I'm choosing the most common option, stocking stitch. The next 2 rows are for the knitting gauge. I strongly recommend that you knit a swatch first. As described in the settings guide, you need to provide the number of stitches and rows to make a 4-inch square, which is 10 centimeters if you're working in metric. Tap on Tension Stitches. Tapping on the Info button will remind you that you need to count the number of stitches to make 4 inches or 10 centimeters. My gauge is 22 stitches to 4 inches. In the same way, enter the number of rows to make 4 inches or 10 centimeters. I have 28 rows to my 4 inches. Now choose a rib or edging stitch. Usually this will be single or double rib, as I'm choosing here. You can also choose garter stitch, or if you don't want any edging at all, choose no rib. As I said, I'm choosing double ribbing. Before we go to the next section to choose your garment size, you will see here an optional section, Yarn Specifics. Tapping on this row will expand the sub-rows underneath it. This section is here to provide additional information to enable more accurate yarn quantity estimations, including how many balls of yarn you will need. You don't have to provide any information here, but if you don't, the pattern will estimate the number of yards or meters of yarns that you will need, but won't be able to tell you how many balls or skeins. To improve the accuracy of the yarn quantity estimation, enter the ball weight in the appropriate units. Make sure you've chosen grams or ounces as appropriate. My ball weight is 50 grams, so I'm entering that here. In the same way, enter the length of yarn on each ball or skein, making sure you choose the correct units. I have 170 meters of yarn on my ball. This yarn goes a very long way. We can just leave it at that, and that will enable the app to calculate the number of balls of yarn that you need. But to improve the accuracy even further, we can provide information from the swatch which we have knitted. So if you count the number of stitches and rows in your swatch and enter them here, so I have 87 stitches and I have 36 rows. Then we scroll down and you have a choice here to either weigh your swatch accurately and enter the weight, or if you're unable to make an accurate weight measurement, unravel the swatch and measure the length of yarn that was used to make it. As I say, it's very important if you're using weight to be very accurate here. If you're working in grams, to the nearest gram is fine. If you're working in ounces, you will need parts of an ounce for better results. So the weight of my swatch is 16 grams. So I'm entering that here. I have grams. So that's it, I'm done. When you've finished entering the yarn specifics, this section is automatically minimized again when you just tap anywhere else in the table. So you can just go back to the yarn specific section and tap to expand and see the values you've entered at any time, and then tap again or tap anywhere else to minimize it. You'll see here another optional section for custom stitch patterns. This section is useful if you want to add a centre panel to the body or sleeves, or if you are knitting with a custom stitch pattern and you want to make sure that the stitch pattern is centralised on the body of the sweater. You might not want to use this section at all. I'm going to demonstrate it with a simple centre panel of diamonds which are worked in reverse stocking stitch to the front of my sweater. I'll use the buttons here to show that the stitch count of my panel is 22. Now we come to the size section. Whether you're making to a standard size or to custom measurements, you firstly need to choose a standard size from a range of sizes. If you want a custom size, you choose the closest size first and you will be able to adjust the measurements afterwards. The available size range options available vary depending on the type of person you chose in the first section. For women, standard size ranges are available for several countries. For men, you can choose by chest size or by letter size, small, medium, large, extra large, etc. Children's and babies' sizes are by age or chest size. So here we are choosing women's size ranges. I'm most familiar with UK sizes, so I'm choosing that. Choose the size closest to the size you want, even if you want to knit a custom size. I'm choosing size UK 14. The app will return to the settings screen. You can see that choosing the size from the list has auto-populated all of the values in the following two sections: body measurements and garment measurements. You can now tap on any of these measurements and change them for a custom size and style as you wish. The body measurements are the measurements of the person that you are knitting for. The settings guide gives details of how each measurement should be taken. You can also check this when you tap on a value via the info button. I'm going to tweak these a little to get a perfect fit. I'm going to change my waist to neck measurement to be 15.25 inches. And my underarm length to be 18 inches. And I'm going to make my upper arm slightly bigger, 12 inches. Okay, so that's my body measurements customised. The garment measurements are for customising the style. For example, I'm going to adjust the neckline of my garment. I want the neck width to be a bit wider, so I'm going to change it from 8 inches to 9.5 inches. I also want the neck depth to be a little bit shallower, so I'm going to adjust it down from 4.6 inches to 3 inches. And I want the neckband to be a little bit narrower. I'll make it 3/4 of an inch. I'm also going to increase the rib length and the cuff lengths to 2 inches rather than 1.6. You'll see there is another section below the garment measurements for additional measurements. There's only one parameter here, and that is for the measurement around the body at full length. In other words, around the bottom edge of the sweater. You will see that this is greyed out here with the text not required. Most of the time you will not need to enter any information in this row, but if you wish, you can use this parameter to adjust the shape of the garment. This parameter can typically be used to make the bottom edge wider to create a flared or A-line shape to the garment. For example, if I tap here, I can choose to match the bottom edge to the hip measurement, and then I can choose a larger value, and that will result in the garment having an A-line or swing shape. Finally, at the bottom here, you'll see the notes section. You can use this section to write your own pattern notes, and these will be included at the end of your saved pattern text. To demonstrate, I'm going to type pattern created for KnitsThatFit Premium tutorial, unlabelled yarn, swatch knitted as standard DK, neck shape wider and shallower than standard. You can add notes as you create your pattern, as I'm doing now, or you can come back after you've saved your pattern to make notes as you are knitting the garment. I have completed all the required settings for creating a pattern. I'm just going to scroll back to the top and then scroll down again and check everything to make sure that I've entered all of my values correctly. Now that I'm happy with these settings, I'm going to go ahead and tap the Save button in the menu bar at the top right of the screen. If I've missed any of the settings, a message box will pop up to tell me. If all of the settings are complete, as they are here, then when I tap Save, the app will calculate the pattern and you will now see the knitting instruction text. So there you have it. I have successfully created a pattern in the KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium app. Scroll through to see the whole knitting pattern text instructions. We have a pattern summary first, then a list of abbreviations used in the pattern text, and then information on how to work the main stitch pattern. Next is a reminder to check your gauge. This is very important. If you didn't do it already, follow the instructions to knit a swatch. If your gauge doesn't match, you can either change the settings for tension stitches and tension rows, or change to a larger or smaller needle size to match the gauge required. If you need to change either gauge or needle size, just go back to the settings page and edit the appropriate settings. Just remember to save your changes as before. There is also a reminder to make sure the other settings you have entered are correct and to amend them if necessary. Here we have the yarn requirements. As I've provided full details of my yarn and swatch, I now have an estimation of the number of balls of yarn that I need to make my sweater, as well as the number of meters and yards. The actual knitting instructions follow. Because I used the custom stitch pattern option in settings for a centre panel with a stitch count of 22, the pattern has calculated how many stitches to work either side of the panel to centralise it. We can see here the text instructions tell me to place a marker after the first 41 stitches, then work my first row of my panel, place another marker and continue to work the remaining 41 stitches. I can now use these markers to know where to knit the custom stitch panel without having to count the stitches on each row. At the end of the pattern text here, you will see my notes that I entered in settings. Here at the bottom of the screen, you will see the row counter panel. I will just be giving a quick demo of the counter here. I'll be making a separate tutorial with more detail on how to use it. Just choose the section that you're knitting. So I'm knitting the back, and then use the plus button here to increase the row count. You'll see information here to remind you of where you are in the pattern. If you prefer, you can change the counter increment to 2, so you only need to tap every alternate row. Or, if you've been knitting and forgot to use the counter, you can change the increment to 10, and then you can catch up to the row count that you're on much more quickly. If you don't want the counter bar, you can easily hide it by tapping this button here and bring it back anytime you like. You can also slide the bar up and down the screen and use it as a marker against where you are in the pattern text. You can see that there are now 3 tabs at the top of the screen, with text, the middle one, being the one that is currently selected. You can tap the other tabs or swipe left and right. The tab on the left is the Settings tab. Here you can view all of the settings for the pattern you're currently on. If you wish, you can edit the settings. Just remember to save your changes when you're done. The Schematic tab shows a schematic diagram for Premium. You can see that the schematic is labelled with pattern information, including measurements, as well as stitches and rows, and key shaping information for the neckline, sleeve head and armholes. Tapping the back button here from any of the pattern tabs will now take you back to the app start screen. Now that you have created and saved a pattern, you can tap on the To My Pattern List button, where you can see the name of the pattern you've just created with a summary beneath it. As you create and save more patterns, they will be added to this list. If you haven't yet created a pattern, the page will be blank and this message will pop up to say that you need to start creating a new pattern, which you can do either from this page with this button here, or go back to the Start button and from this button here. From the pattern list page, you can tap to view your pattern, settings and schematic. You can create a new pattern, or you can go directly to the settings for each pattern, or copy that pattern's settings to create a new pattern. Tap the back button to go back to the start. If we go back to the pattern we have just created, you will see this other button at the top right of the screen. Tapping here from either the pattern text or the schematic will show you the options to print or to save the pattern as a PDF. So I've now shown you how to create a custom knitting pattern in KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium. Now all I need to do is to knit my sweater. And here it is. This will be perfect for those mid-season days. If you are not sure if KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium is for you, the free app KnitsThatFit Sweaters is a great way to explore the app and decide. I have a separate video showing you how to make a simple sweater in the free KnitsThatFit Sweaters app. I've put a link below. So now I've come to the end of my KnitsThatFit Sweaters Premium walkthrough. I hope you've found this video helpful. You will have seen how simple and fast it is to create a knitting pattern in the KnitsThatFit Premium app. You will also have seen that there are so many features in the KnitsThatFit Premium app that I haven't been able to show you all of them in great detail. But I will be making more videos soon, so make sure you subscribe to the KnitsThatFit YouTube channel so that you don't miss out. Thank you for watching. Happy knitting!